Hello everyone. This video will give an introduction to digital communication techniques, the topic which we are going to discuss in the coming few videos. To begin with, let me start with the famous sentence by Auguste Comte. To understand a science, it is necessary to know its history. So first we will be dealing with some historical background of communication, and then later we'll go on to deeper concepts of digital communication, how it developed and how it has become a pioneering technology in the current area of communication. The historic background starts with telegraph, an invention by Samuel Morse in 1844. Morse invented Morse code, which is a variable length code which had mainly two symbols, a dot and a dash. You might really get surprised by seeing that this code is actually a digital communication technique. So the digital communication technique actually came long before analog communication came into existence. Then came radio. Radio was an invention of Guglielmo Marconi. So in 1864, James Clerk Maxwell formulated the electromagnetic theory of light and predicted the existence of radio waves. So the underlying set of equations bears his name. The existence of radio waves was confirmed experimentally by Heinrich Hertz in 1887. In 1894, Oliver Lodge demonstrated wireless communication over a relatively short distance, around 150 yards. Then in December 12, 1901, Marconi received a radio signal at Signal Hill in Newfoundland. This radio signal, it was originated in Cornwall, England, around 1700 miles away across the Atlantic. So this was one of the very powerful invention in the field of communication. Then Edwin H. Armstrong invented the super heterodyne radio receiver. Almost till this day, almost all radio receivers are of super heterodyne receiver of this type. Then came telephone, the famous invention by Alexander Graham Bell in 1875. So Alexander Graham Bell was a teacher of the deaf. So this was a very groundbreaking invention, the telephone, and which became a major stepping stone in the field of communication. Electronics. In 1904, John Ambrose Fleming invented the vacuum tube diode, which paved the way for the invention of vacuum tube diode by Lee De Forest in 1906. This invention was very instrumental in the development of telephony during those days. The breakthrough in this field came with the invention of transistor, which was invented by three scientists in 1948. So this was a major landmark in the development of VLSI, microprocessors, etc. The next invention was in the order is television. We are all familiar about television. It was invented in the year 1928 by Vladimir K. Sorokin in around 1928. So the first channel which was broadcasted using telephone, it was British Broadcasting Corporation, also known as BBC. After all these inventions came digital communication. In 1928, Harry Nyquist published a classic paper on theory of signal transmission in telegraphy. In particular, Nyquist developed criteria for the correct reception of telegraph signals transmitted over dispersive channels in the absence of noise. Much of Nyquist's early work was applied later to the transmission of digital data over dispersive channels. In 1937, Alex Reeves invented pulse code modulation for digital encoding of speech signals. We'll also be dealing with pulse code modulation in detail in the coming slides. Then, computer networks. During the period 1943 to 1946, the first electronic digital computer called ENIAC was built at the Moore School of Electrical Engineering of the University of Pennsylvania under the technical direction of J. Presper Eckert Jr. and John W. Mauchly. However, John von Neumann's contribution were among the earliest and the most fundamental to the theory, design and application of digital computers, which go back to the first draft of a report written in 1945. The computer networks, it paved a way to a lot of other inventions which aided communication, like adaptive equalization in 1965. Then a lot of efficient modulation techniques was invented in the 1980s, and later computer communication throttled a lot by using automatic repeat request ARQ protocol. All this happens in the 1980s and so on. The satellite communication was proposed in 1955. So it proposed the use of satellites for communication. This proposal was preceded, however, by an earlier paper by Arthur C. Clarke that was published in 1945, also proposing the idea of using an Earth orbiting satellite as a relay point for communication between two Earth stations. And a series of satellites were launched and communication using satellites was established. Optical communication was another major breakthrough in the field of communication. So optical communication was developed during the year 1966 by two scientists in Standard Telephone Laboratories, UK. They used a clad glass fiber as a dielectric waveguide. That was the first type of optical communication that was achieved. Then let's have a quick review on applications. The applications, of course, we know the application is in broadcasting, point-to-point communications, in radio, data networks, internet, we all know. Integration of telephone and internet was later made, and then of course data storage was possible. Certain theories of communication systems, these are the underlying theories that happens in every communication system. The modulation theory, the Fourier analysis, the detection theory, probability and random processes, all these theories are cornerstones of this subject. In order to learn this subject, you need to have a thorough understanding of all these theories. So that's all for the introduction to digital communication techniques. As a conclusion, let me say, communication systems consist of many applications. As mentioned above, the applications are a lot in number. I have cited only a few of them. And now digital communication, this was established as a dominant form of communication. And we'll see why digital communication is a dominant form of communication nowadays. Thank you so much for listening to this video.